Okay, so welcome everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. And as people come in, we can always answer questions. So this, as just a reminder, we are going to record this, so we will upload these later. We do have a YouTube, so we'll upload all of these Wellness Wednesdays to YouTube, and we'll be sure to share them out on social media as well. So welcome to our second Wellness Wednesday. Today we're going to be talking about sleeping better, and just some tips and some tools and some things to really think about to help you get the best out of your sleep, because sleep is so important, and we're going to dive right into that. As people join, if you've got any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. If you're watching the replay on this, please feel free to drop comments, and then we'll get back and answer them as soon as we can. So first things first, let's talk about why sleep is so important. Honestly, the biggest thing about sleep is so directly connected to your health. You want to be getting that 7 to 8 hours of sleep a day. That's what's actually going to help you kind of get that peak optimal health, and really kind of make sure, sleep deprivation can really affect, and the reason it says health is it can just affect so many different body processes. What sleep is important for is it really helps restore your body. It allows your body just to do so many different things. And I'll get to that on the next slide, but there's just so much that it impacts in health. One of the things specifically that it can do for your body is it actually impacts weight. And so a lot of people, especially when they're experiencing weight gain, this can actually be linked to sleep. And that's because one of the hormones that's actually impacted, called ghrelin, that hormone is actually influenced by your sleep. And sometimes what people may find is if they sleep less, they actually feel more hungry. And think about it, your body's been up longer, your body just has this impression that it needs to continue to eat. And so sometimes people will eat more, and then it also impacts just the hormones that your body releases and kind of what your body is doing with that energy. Is it storing energy? What is it doing? So it can actually impact your weight, actually increase weight. Another way that it can really impact you on your health and wellness is sleep is kind of directly linked to stress. And it's kind of this catch-22 is kind of how I think about it, because stress can negatively impact your sleep. And then sleep can also negatively impact your stress, right? So if you're stressed, you may not be sleeping, or if you're not sleeping, you may be stressed because you're not sleeping. So that's why tackling sleep is so important, because it does have that direct connection to stress. And figuring out why aren't you sleeping, and maybe why are you stressed? If you can kind of answer those two questions, you might know how to tackle that, right? Some of the presentations we talk about is tackling stress. So if you're not sleeping because you're stressed, okay, like let's go back and let's talk about why you're stressed and what we can do to impact that. But if you're stressed because you're not sleeping, you've got insomnia, then hopefully some of the stuff we talk about today will really help you out. The last thing, sleep can really positively or negatively impact your focus and productivity. One of the things about being a student is you're here to get good grades, get your degree, right? Well, part of that is sleep. Sleep is important for storing those memory. One of the big things I always tell people is, and we'll talk about REM and non-REM sleep here in a second, but getting that 7 to 8 hours allows you to store a lot of the knowledge that you're learning. So all those people that are doing those late night cram sessions right before an exam, you're not giving yourself any sleep to store all those memories you're making. I always tell people the best way to think about it is think about your brain has to process your short-term memory and save that so that can then store it into long-term memory. If you're not getting those processes and doing that in your sleep, it's just not happening. The other thing is focus. If you're tired and you're relying maybe on caffeine to keep you awake and alert, that may not work as much as you think it might for you. So it's definitely something to kind of think about, moving forward is, think about those well rested nights of sleep versus those all nighters, or you're only getting a couple hours of sleep. Think about how your focus and productivity has kind of been in the past. So I said we're going to talk a little bit about REM and non-REM sleep. Basically, when you sleep throughout the night, your body's process is constantly going through this process of shifting through these stages of sleep. And there's actually 4 stages. 3 of them are non-REM and one of them is REM. So you're going to constantly move through these stages of sleep, and you're actually sleeping in cycles. Uh, and so you're going to kind of fluctuate between these periods of deep sleep and these periods of kind of lighter sleep, which is this REM sleep. All of these stages are really, really important. And that 7 to 8 hours is what's going to actually get you to getting this both REM and non-REM sleep. Okay. And from what I found is your cycles of this REM and non-REM sleep are about 90-minute cycles. So, if you're just getting a couple hours of sleep, you're really not getting as much of that restorative sleep that you need. So REM sleep, and this is the one that is most talked about. It's this rapid eye movement. This one is where people's eyes are kind of darting around, like their eyes are closed, but you can kind of see it moving. This is actually going to be one of your more, it's actually funny because it's one of your more wakeful ones, because things like dreams are occurring here. Your body's going to be relaxed, but it's also you're restoring that energy to the brain and that body. So there's actually a lot of stuff that's going on in your brain, and so that's just something to think about. The REM sleep is the sleep that's actually going to support that daytime performance. So that focus on productivity is going to be so important to get that REM sleep. As for the non-REM sleep, this is going to be a little bit more of your deeper and heavier sleep. This is where that body is really going to feel so deeply relaxed. And the thing with the non-REM sleep is REM is really kind of a little bit focused on that energy restored to the brain and somewhat of the body. But that non-REM is really focusing on your tissue growth and repair. Your blood supply is increasing. Your hormones are being released for some of that development. And so that's going to be important. Remember, I talked about how health and weight are important, and they're going to be influenced by sleep. Well, this is what we're talking about. This is going to be so important. The REM is going to be really restorative, but so is that non-REM, and they do different things to impact you totally as a person with your health and wellness. That hormone ghrelin I was talking about with that hunger and weight management, that is in your non-REM sleep. So again, the reason that 7 to 8 hours has been shown to be so important is because you're getting enough of that non-REM and that REM sleep and getting those cycles that you need. So I think this is really interesting, and I'm going to preface the next few slides with saying that a lot of this information has come from a resource that I'm going to talk about at the end called Campus Well, and it's a free resource available for you as a student. So I'm just going to go ahead and let you know that right now, that I'll get into that. But I thought this was really interesting is that they did an article on how to become a morning person in 2 weeks. And I thought this was really interesting because there's a few key components to this. And the first one is just to start gradually. So if you are not a morning person at all and you're staying up late, it's going to be really hard for you to just do this dramatic shift in your mentality and your sleep schedule. And so one of the things that you really want to do is to just start gradually. Adjust your schedule in increments, whether it's just 5, 10, 15 minutes, really kind of work yourself up to it. If you're really working on that 2-minute scale, I highly suggest maybe that 10 to 15-minute increment if you can. The other piece to that is making sure that you're prepared ahead of time. So if you know that you're snoozing your clock in the morning and you're just not a morning person and you're never going to be able to tackle everything and you're constantly running late for stuff, what I would go ahead and do is figure out what you can prepare ahead of time at night. If it's something as you can pack your lunch in the evening, or review your schedule and say you're going to go to the gym that day. You might want to pack your gym bag ahead of time. Making sure that you can pick out your clothing. So say it's going to be a casual day, pick out a casual outfit so you don't have to think about that and spend time doing that. Or maybe you need to wear a little bit more professional. Maybe you've got an organization meeting, or a practice interview with career and professional development. All of that, making sure you're prepared for some of that you've got going. Get moving. Okay, so what I'm talking about with get moving is getting some physical activity in. So as much as you might think, well, physical activity, isn't that going to amp me up? Yes, but some of those hormones that you're releasing and then the impact on your body is this is actually going to allow you to be get more restful sleep, and then also to help you fall asleep. Think about it. If you're actually burning off the energy that you're putting into your body, then you're going to be able to fall asleep a little bit more. The only thing that we tell people not to do to get some restful sleep is don't, if you're going to try to go to bed at 10 o'clock, is let's not be exercising at 8, 9 o'clock. Your body's still going to be kind of awake. So the earlier in the day you can kind of get moving, the better, is kind of the caveat to that. Get consistent sleep. So really trying to make sure you're getting that 7 to 8, maybe even 7 to 9 hours if you can get the 9 hours of sleep. And really trying to keep that on the weekends. I know a lot of times we can get some consistent sleep Monday through Friday, or Sunday through Thursday, right? And then we get to that weekend and we're just like, we throw all caution to the wind and we're like, no, I get to stay up late. Changing your schedule can really impact you. It might make it a little bit rougher for you as you transition back into the week, and you're constantly having to reset yourself and getting onto a schedule. So try to stay consistent with the sleep as much as you can. The other piece to this is making sure you set your alarm. And the way you can do it is set your alarm however you want. Maybe if you know you need to be eased out of bed, maybe you set an alarm and you choose different music. And so you start with some, relaxing music to kind of gradually wake yourself up out of sleep, setting an alarm so it goes off multiple times, however you want to do it. But setting an alarm so you can kind of ease yourself out of bed. There's some apps that can even be helpful with this as well. Enjoying breakfast. Okay, breakfast is a big one to help you become a little bit more of a morning person, especially if you maybe feel like you're dragging, you need to wake up. And one of the things I will say with enjoying breakfast is it's not just necessarily about the food. One of the greatest tips that I've ever seen is actually to get some water, get some fluids in you in the morning, and I highly encourage you to drink water first. But really kind of getting that in your body is you're waking your body up, but you're already, think about it. If you're getting 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep, that's, 7, 8 hours, you're not drinking any fluids, not getting any of that body. So one, do something, drink that water to kickstart, but then let's get some food, and making sure that it's a food that's if you can get as well balanced of a breakfast as you can, that's better, because then you're getting protein, you're eating those whole grain carbs, hopefully, maybe even some fruits and vegetables, depending on what you're eating and how quick you're making it. But really trying to make sure that you're getting a good breakfast in there, because that's going to really set the tone for your day, and really kind of kickstart your metabolism. That's the biggest thing that sometimes we don't do, is we don't get that kickstart to our metabolism in the mornings. So we have kind of gotten some tips going on, how we're going to become a better morning person, right? But now what we want to do is we want to shift to making sleep a priority, okay? And so this is a little bit of a different mentality when we approach sleep. And some of the big things we need to do is, anytime you're trying to make sleep a priority, is take your to-do list and evaluate your to-do list. Think about it. Are you doing too much? Or are you sitting on a to-do list where you're not checking anything off because you're busy doing all these other things, and then you never actually do your to-do list, so you're stuck staying up and you're like doing all of it stuff late at night? Look at your to-do list. Think about what needs to get done right now. Think about what you can save till later so you can focus on getting some sleep in, okay? Being mindful of time wasters. So this links in a little bit to that to-do list. Is how much time are you spending on social media, playing video games? How much time are you just spending with friends socializing? Maybe you get together with your friends and it's supposed to be a study session and you end up talking and gossiping or doing whatever for an hour, and you're like, oh my gosh, where did the time go? I was supposed to be studying. Now I've got to go to bed and I start doing all this other stuff. So be mindful of what you're actually doing with your time, and what you're spending it on. Really trying to get rid of that mindless scrolling, right? So how many times have you found that you've opened TikTok or Instagram and you're scrolling and you watched, like, you can't remember how many videos you've been watching, and you're just like, oh my gosh, where did the time go? Be mindful of that. What else goes along with that is don't look at your electronics when you go to bed. When you go to bed, your bed should be your space for sleeping. Um, and part of the reason that we say that is because you're trying to separate that space from your kind of waking stuff. But the big thing with that is a lot of electronics have this blue light, whether it's your TV, whether it's your tablet, whether it's your phone, right? And that blue light actually triggers your brain to be awake. And it's actually affecting some of those hormones that are actually being released that can help you sleep. Now, I will say this: there's some technology out there. So I know on my phone, I have the ability to do kind of like a blue light filter. Or some people might have actually their glasses might have a blue light. It's not a filter, but it's their lens can be coated so that they've got kind of a little bit of a blue light filter if you switch into glasses or you wear glasses on a regular basis. And so some of that stuff can be really, really helpful because I know for me, and we'll get to routine here in a second, but my routine involves reading a book. And I read on my phone or my tablet. So what I want to do is, I still want to read because that's my routine, but I want to make sure that I'm also not getting that blue light. Big thing here, limiting your caffeine and limiting after 2 p.m. So I've seen 3 p.m. before, but I think 2 p.m. is a really good number, especially if you're trying to make sleep a priority and you're trying to go to bed at like 9, 10 o'clock. You really want to limit your caffeine because that can really stay in your body and impact your body for a lot longer than you think. And you need to give your body a lot of time to process the caffeine out. So just making sure that you are aware that how much caffeine that you're taking in and when you're taking it in. And then that last one, I touched a little bit on it, but creating your sleep routine. And what this means is you can actually trigger your brain to know, oh gosh, it's time to go to bed if you have the same routine every night. So a good example, my routine is I'm going to wash my face, I'm going to brush my teeth, I'm going to take my contacts out, and that kind of trigger. Then I'm going to put my glasses on. Those simple steps actually trigger my brain to say, oh, we're working towards sleep. Like this is something like, okay, we're winding down for the day. I've changed into my pajamas. Like I said, part of my routine a lot of times is reading a book, and sometimes I'll make it 10 pages. Sometimes I'll make it 1 page, and my brain is like, okay, time to turn off. Let's go to bed. So just kind of think about establishing some sort of routine. That's really a good trigger for your brain. This is another one of those Canva articles that Campus Well articles that I thought was so useful for you guys. And I'll actually pull this one up and I will show it to you because it's a really fun graphic page that you can look into. There's a lot of different ways you can upgrade your sleep space. So we talked about how we want to make sleep a priority, right? We're going to do all this stuff to make sleep a priority. Well, another way to kind of make that a priority is actually thinking about the space around you, whether it's your physical space or kind of just that like mental space around you. So first things first, thinking about the design and layout. So I pulled a pretty typical college dorm room of what it may look like. You'll see here, there's a desk, there's a bed, there's some shelves, and then there's a window, right? Well, the way this layout works is you see you've got some curtains there, but I mean, your head is right next to that light, right? So, is there, think about maybe if there was a light outside this room, you may have to switch away around your layout so there's not a light keeping you awake. Or maybe you keep this layout this way because you want to make sure that you're getting up every morning. So you want to make sure that when the sun starts shining that's starting to be a trigger. So you want to take your design and layout of your room into consideration. I'm going to kind of skip a little bit because this goes with design and layout, is if you notice in this enclosed space, the bed is on one side and the desk is on the other. Part of what goes into keeping your sleep space is your work zone is separate from your sleep zone. So whether it's you decide that my dorm room is not a place that I am going to be able to study, my bed is just so comfortable and it's going to, potentially draw me in and I won't let go and I'll be taking a 2-hour nap. okay, then maybe you just decide that your dorm room is not a work zone. Or if you find that your dorm room's a good work zone for you, making sure that your bed is not necessarily your work zone. It may just not, I know it might become more comfortable than sitting at the desk, but you're going to be able to separate those two just that little bit more. Another one, using a fan. A fan's going to be really good because it's two-part, right? A fan can be used as part of a kind of a temperature control, especially if, you don't have specific control over your room. It'll be really good for that. But it can also be good for sound control. So say you don't necessarily want to use your phone or anything like that as a background noise, you can just have a fan and it makes a really good white noise to kind of cover up some background noise or just provide background noise. Thinking about the lighting in your room. So if your dorm room or your room at home has maybe some bright fluorescent lighting in there that's going to keep you awake, so this room, for example, doesn't have a lamp, but maybe it's got some, they only use light that's coming from outside. You could think about adding a really small lamp so that, if you want to kind of wind down, instead of having those bright lights, you maybe have just a little table lamp that you can turn on and off or something like that. Clutter is another thing to think about, and there's two parts to this one as well. So you want to kind of keep your space decluttered, because having that clutter in there, are you constantly having to move stuff around? Because then we move into this, you also want to declutter your mind. So remember I said your sleep space is your physical space, but it's also kind of that mental space you're in. If your room is cluttered and your brain is cluttered, maybe it's from everything you were thinking about that you did that day or everything you have to get done tomorrow or during the week, really kind of decluttering your mind and your space is going to be really good for that. And so just some things to think about. Thinking about your bed, how do you have your bed set up? Is there a way that you can set it up to make you more comfortable? Also things to think about, what kind of comforts do you have? Maybe it's you have a hard trouble sleeping and so you try a weighted blanket. Those are all things to think about. Sounds, so this ties into that. Fans, maybe you decide you don't want a fan for white noise. Maybe you decide that you want to put some music on, or you want to use an app, or you're going to listen to an audiobook right before bed. You're going to do something to kind of really declutter your brain, get your brain to de-stress, and also kind of filter out all those background distracting noises. I already talked about work zone. Let's talk about recharging. So when we talk about recharge, the idea behind this, and another term for this, is actually electronic engineering. And so I'm not talking about you're going to get a degree in engineering. No, what I'm talking about is engineer the electronics around you. Put your phone on airplane mode. Put your phone out of arm's reach. So in this picture example, instead of putting your phone on the shelving unit that's right next to the bed, why don't you put your phone to charge on the desk? It's out of arm's reach. You'd have to get out of bed, so you're not going to get out of bed to probably go get to it, right? Maybe you're going to turn the blue light off that I told you about. You're going to use that filter. Maybe you decide you don't want a TV in your sleep space. I know a lot of people don't put a TV in their sleep space because one, it's a temptation to turn it on, but two, that it's really hard to fall asleep when that TV is on. And then the last but not least is, if you're living in a space where you have a roommate, whether it's they're in the same room as you, or you just are sharing an apartment, or you're living in a household with other people, is really talking to the people around you and setting up some boundaries and some expectations about your sleep. Maybe establishing some rules about quiet hours and when you're going to be quiet. How does that change from the week to the weekend, things like that. Those are all really important. And these are all going to be useful for you to really upgrade your sleep space, whether it's your physical or your mental sleep space. So love to always talk about some apps that can help students, and all of these apps on here have some sort of free component to them. So just something to kind of think about. I try to use as free as possible because I know we're college students, sometimes you're low budget here. Headspace, really good. That one is going to have some sleep tools. It's also, the thing about Headspace is it's also a mental health app. So it's kind of all encompassing on what it can help you do as far as stress, sleep, and mental health. So I love that one. Calm's good. Calm is probably one of the most well-known ones out there. There's a lot of free components to Calm. I know personally, I use Calm as background noise. We listen to thunderstorms. I will say that if you're just looking for a soundtrack and you have Spotify, Spotify also works fantastically. And Spotify can be free or paid for. It's however you want to do it. But that's another good place to kind of look for if you just want some soundtracks. A lot of these have some audio book component to them, whether it's free or paid. But if you want somebody to kind of read you a bedtime story, if you like want to think back to childhood, if you ever had that, that's actually an option as well. The Fizz app is a little bit new to me, but that's one that's out there. That's actually a top rated sleep app, and it's going to have some of the same components as Headspace and Calm might. Sleep Cycle is actually a little bit different, and I can't remember, this one might be actually a paid one, but I thought it was worth sharing. Sleep Cycle, if you want to actually understand how you're sleeping, so how you're moving maybe through sleep cycles, are you getting into REM sleep? Are you getting maybe some of that deep sleep that you want to get? You can actually use this app, and it'll use different components to actually kind of by tracing your movements and stuff like that, it'll actually tell you how you're sleeping in your cycles. So those are just 4. There's plenty more out there that are available, whether they're free or paid for, but those are a good place to start as well. And then that actually leads me into our Campus Well. So I'm going to take you to the web version of this, but it is available on an app. It's in Apple and Android stores, so the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. I highly recommend you go and download this because they will send you some push notifications anytime there's new content out. So the way that Campus Well actually started off, used to be Student Health 101, and it used to be an online health magazine geared towards students. Well, they found that a lot of students wanted to access the past content. And so what they did is they actually shifted to having an app and a web version that was more of kind of this blog. So I'm actually going to take you to see what it looks like. So this is actually what your Campus Well, when all you gotta do is type in lamar.campuswell.com. This is what it's gonna bring you to, this screen right here. And all of these articles, they're gonna change as the kind of changes. Now, what I wanna show you is all these different components to it. So LU, there's going to be some different components on here. There's a link that takes you right to our COVID page for the university. We've got our Wellness Wednesday schedule, the fall group fitness schedule. But look at all of these different topics on here. What we're going to focus on today is the body, and so we're focusing on sleep. So I want to show you just how much content is in here that they've compiled over the years. So we're going to be talking about sleep. So these are all articles that are related to sleep. So I told you I wanted to take you to one of the articles that I showed you just to see how different it can be. And look, you'll notice here, there's a video here. So some of them might be like that one. It's a yoga. I like this one too. It's how not to fall off your sleep schedule during winter breaks. So when we're on breaks, sometimes we totally change up our rooms. So here's what we wanted to cover is upgrade your sleep. I believe this is the one that I was talking about. And so what you're going to do, and so as you can see here, you click through, it's all clickable, and it's all going to be comments from different students at different universities too. So what I liked about this article is it actually had influence from students. This website is really good about getting feedback and student feedback. So highly recommend going through that. Again, download the app, visit the website. You can actually go in and subscribe, and they'll tell you. So, check this out and check out the resources from this. And I see that had anybody new join. So again, drop your comments if you've got comments. I'm actually done. So you can drop comments in the chat and we will answer them. And then what I ask everybody to do is after you viewed this program, whether you're viewing it live or you're viewing it online, please, please, please fill out our post-program survey. This actually is going to help us to create better Wellness Wednesdays. It's going to help us to create better programming for you and have you give direct student feedback. So please fill this out. Let's see if there's any comments. I'm not seeing any chat comments. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end the presentation. And I thank you all for coming out and visiting our Wellness Wednesday. Our next one is going to be September 30th. So it's 2 weeks from today. Most of our programs are going to be every 2 weeks for Wellness Wednesday. And so I hope to see you then. We're going to be doing that one on Zoom again. And then stay tuned because we are trying to work, hopefully October with COVID, we'll be able to start offering some in-person options. So I hope to see you next time. Thank you.